Huddle, the Central Arkansas FCA podcast where faith meets competition. We're your hosts, Zach Rose and Josh Adair, and we are super excited to be with you today. This is our very first show, and we have two very special guests with us today. And Josh is going to go ahead and share a little bit about what this FCA podcast is going to be, as well as a little bit of an overview of kind of our impact here in Central Arkansas.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate that. This is a podcast kind of been birthed out of a vision of the ability to share all the stories of coaches and athletes or lead from a faith perspective and what impact Jesus has made in their life. Here in Central Arkansas, we serve in over 11 counties. At this time, we have close to 150 huddles on campuses. Our goal is to lead every coach and athlete to a growing relationship with Jesus Christ and His church, and so our goal is to have an impact on every campus, public, private, 7th through 12th grade, college, and we actually have a chaplain that works for the Arkansas Travelers, semi-pro team here in Arkansas. So this is just an opportunity for us to share all those stories of coaches, athletes, of impact, how they live by faith through the sports that they play, how Jesus is making them better, and as they perform as an athlete in the classroom and impacting their community. A little bit about FCA. FCA has been around for 71 years. 1954, it's the first time the FCA was started. We're in a little over 100 countries outside the United States. Our home is here in the United States. Our home office is in Kansas City. Everyone who works for FCA that comes on staff raises their own support. We are a faith-funded ministry, and through sponsorships of local businesses or personal asks of people to join us in the mission that God has called us to serve in. And we're just excited to share and to learn and to talk about the impact that Jesus is making on the campuses and in the locker rooms, on the benches, and in the fields of play of everyone in Central Arkansas.
Yeah, we are super excited to dive deeper into the testimonies and the stories of the actual impact that's happening here in our Central Arkansas area. Beyond the Huddle, the name itself is stretching beyond our regular huddles, our regular devotional meetings, and getting a better idea of the impact and the journey that each of these coaches and athletes are taking right here in Central Arkansas. So today, like I mentioned, we have two very special guests with us. We have Coach Johnny Rice. He's at North Little Rock High School for about 10 years. And you've been there a lot longer, but North Little Rock High School. And he just joined our staff, our Central Arkansas East FCA staff, and we're super excited to have him. And we also have Coach Brad Bolding back at North Little Rock High School. So we're super excited to have those guys with us today.
Absolutely. So I'll just open this up to either one of you. We'll just jump right into our questions. I'll go with Johnny. Johnny, can you share a little bit about your faith journey and how it led you to where you are today, even as a coach, and more so coming on staff with FCA?
Well, I was blessed as a child of having Christian church going parents. That when the church doors were open, I was there, and I didn't know I didn't know about not going to church. It was always something that was important in our family and was stressed by my parents. Like I said, my dad is a charter member of the church that I go to now, Northview Missionary Baptist Church here in North Little Rock, and a deacon, and I had two uncles that were once passed away, but they were both Baptist preachers. And I got one my Uncle Paul Rice is the pastor at in Gravel Ridge at Kellogg Valley Baptist Church, and so it's always been important. It was just driven into me, and so I've always considered myself real lucky. I didn't you hear testimonies of people growing up and they have some big firework thing that it's really exciting, but mine was just kind of I always went to church, and I was saved at a young age and in elementary school, and so there really wasn't a lot of fireworks, so I really wouldn't share it a lot because there wasn't any big impactful thing. But I consider myself super blessed to have been led by two Christian parents that led me in the right direction.
So when do you feel like that switch was kind of flipped for you of my faith is something that I've kind of been born into here of my parents and walking into church, but where do you feel like, or when do you feel like your faith became more personal to you to where you couldn't help but want to share it with other people around you?
You know, I mean, I was shy. I mean, I thought you someone that was a teacher taught for 31 years in the classroom, standing in front of people talking. But as a youngster, I was terrified of doing that. And so the actual telling part, I struggled with. And so it might have been the devil working or his way for me. I would try to justify my witness is if I just live the right life, people can see me and can see Christ through me. And not me as much as me telling them. And, you know, as the more mature I became in my faith, that I understood that it is important to show it, but it is also important to tell it. And so it took a little while. I mean, it was impactful when I, you know, actually did the step of asking Jesus into my heart. But, you know, it was probably once I was out of college and actually teaching and coaching whenever I was teaching a Sunday school class and stuff like that. And so it really came real vivid to me that I've got to tell it too, and not just use that excuse that just see how what I do to lead people to Christ. And so, you know, I was in my 20s whenever it really came about, you know, I've got to get out and share it, not just, you know, let people see what I do. So.
Coach Boulding, would you mind sharing a little bit about your faith journey and getting you to where you are right now?
Sure. Real similar to Johnny's. It's my parents are both church-going folks. We were in church when the doors were open. My dad's a deacon at First Baptist Church in Conway, and so we were always very involved in the church. And you know, I think for me, I'm similar to Johnny. Is that it was really after college when I got into coaching. You know, we had a kid, I think it was in 98 at Greenwood that committed suicide. You know, that really impacted me a lot. I rode out to the house. Actually, kid's parents were gone. They were in Dallas. It was during fall camp, which is a tough time. Mm-hmm. And I rode with Coach Peacock, Ronnie Peacock, to the house. Police were already there. It was pretty rough deal. So had a tremendous impact on me just to know that the amount of him, you know, the impact that coaches can have on kids. I think it was Billy Graham that said coach can have more impact in 1 year than most people can in a lifetime. So, I mean, I take that to heart. You know, I think that means something. And so I've been fortunate enough to grow up in it. I've always been involved in FCA. My brother was the president of the FCA at Magnolia when we lived there. So been heavily involved in it, loved it. We've done it everywhere I've been. And there's been hundreds of kids that accepted Christ because of it. Yeah. I'm very thankful for FCA. And I don't brag to be bragging on myself. I'm bragging to be bragging on God, because what he's done in the programs that I've been involved with has been short of amazing, really. I mean, it's just been phenomenal to be a part of it and to see these kids grow, you know. And there's been a lot of hiccups, man, along the way. You're not going to reach all the kids, you know. There's some things that's going to happen that test your faith a lot when you're coaching. And it's mainly the kids, but there's some other things that, you know, I could go into a long detail about some of my past, but in coaching, and we can get into that if you'd like. But for me, I think that was, I remember vividly ninth grade. My parents was at a church camp in 1983, and that's when I accepted Christ. And, you know, my parents let it, you know, I was always at church. I was always going to church camps and doing FCA, and they let it kind of just naturally let the Holy Spirit work, you know, and instead of just force me, you need to get up there. You know, some parents do that. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of just letting it play out like it's supposed to be, and, you know, let people water it here and there, and, you know, let it work that way. And so that's how they did it with me. And it was ninth grade, 1983. So never forget it, but it was amazing time.
Yeah. I think you said something at the end there that I've been kind of thinking about recently. It's the idea of planting the seed I was listening to an example of that the other day of there's a process to harvesting, and there's a process to the Bible talks about that often, of sowing and reaping, the process of planting the seed, watering it, all this process. But at the end of the day, the Lord produces the fruit or the crop of what we're doing. So I think it's cool that you kind of made that reference. Kind of talking similarly to what you were saying there at the end. Has there ever been a moment where you felt God clearly used a tough season, coaching season, or a tough moment for the Lord's greater purpose?
Well, good. You just got, we'll go right into what I was going to discuss. Yeah, it was in 2015 when I got fired from North Little Rock. You know, it is what it is. Could I have done some things differently? Of course, you know, everybody could have, but the lessons learned from it, from everybody, was the big thing. And I think the thing that my family tried to do, and I think that's really helped in this whole process of me coming back, was I never said anything bad about anybody. I mean, and I could have. I mean, it was tough. I wanted to, you know, and so I just tried to take the high road and do what you know, what Jesus expects us to do and wants us to do on a daily basis, and just show grace. And so that's what I tried to do. It was tough. I was in the roofing business for 2 years, and I would say I was the worst roofing guy ever, because the whole time I was there, my love has been football. I've grown. I mean, my dad and my brother, all coaches. I don't know anything else. So trying to survive out there in the civilian world, what we call it coaches, but it's tough. So I mean, I learned so many things from that journey during that time, and then for it to be full circle and to be able to come back around to the same place, and the place that I helped design the facilities and for football, and to be able to now come back and enjoy them. And now talking about a millage and new facilities. I mean, my wife and I, we have a young son, our 2 daughters are in college. We're having the best time right now. I mean, this is the funnest time we've had in my coaching career. And this is year, I think 28, 29. So I think the lessons that we learned from that, I mean, and during that time too, guys, just to add a little bit to it, I filed for bankruptcy. I got a divorce, and I ended up remarrying the same woman that I got a divorce from.
Awesome.
So, and it was all me. There was a lot of things that, you know, that I had done that were not good. And, you know, she's the sweetest person in the world. I mean, he can tell you she's never going to say a bad thing about anybody. And so, you know, you take all those different things and you see how God works. You know, I lived in the coach's office over at Little Rock for like 3 months. I mean, I didn't have anywhere to live because of this situation. So I spent a lot of time in that turf room with the lights off, talking to God on my hands and knees. So it was pretty, he grabbed a hold of me and got my attention. You know, we talk about valleys and coming out of valleys and going to the peaks and coming back, you know, all that. Whew, I was down in there for a while, and that's a tough place to be, but the lessons you learn down in there are amazing. Yeah. And so that's kind of a little bit on me.
You know, I can relate to that a little bit. 2017, I lost a job too. And so you talked about your family, and it not only, it personally affects us, affects you as a leader of your family and everything else, but also affects the people in your family. Slow down and think. When I was in that season, we had, so I have 4 daughters. Also, I have 4 daughters now. At the time, we had 2, and we've had 2 since then. And unless my wife's going to correct me after this and tell me I'm wrong, which is possible. But I just remember just living by faith and figuring out what living by faith looked like. And this doesn't make sense to me. God, this is all in your hands. I really don't know what you're going to do here. Little did I know, if God would have told me that, hey, you're going to finish student ministry, I'm going to finish it for you, and you're going to come work in FCA full time, I'd be like, you're crazy. But had I known then what I know now, I would have been absolutely just sign me up. We'll do it. And I'm all in, because now I've always known that for me personally, my calling is to the church, and in FCA was to lead every coach and athlete to a growing relationship with Jesus Christ and his church. So to partner with coaches like you and students on campus to get plugged into a local congregation to continue in their growth process is the hardest part for me to have to figure out and how to learn. So you're talking about the Valley. What's one of the lessons that you would mind sharing about being in the Valley that's impacted the way that you coach?
Well, I think all of those things I did, and I didn't mean to pour all that out there. It's just that's a whole lot, you know, to shift through and shuffle through. But I mean, it's reality. I mean, it's what we live in. It's things that people are dealing with on a daily basis. And, you know, I think it's important for me. I mean, like at church, there are other people that are going through something 100%. Similar to that. I mean, so my pastor has utilized that for me. You know, there's been several times where my wife and I have talked to other couples and shared things with them, and pretty, you know, in-depth conversations, you know, from both ways. I mean, so I feel like that's been a huge blessing for us too. I mean, because it sounds terrible. I'm kind of being funny. You hear that and you start thinking, that's my story is not so bad, you know? I mean, there's a lot of bad stories out there and sad stories. And so, and I say that not that I'm being slightly funny, but I mean, just, you know, it is, there's a lot going on in everybody's lives. And so, you know, when we just take the time to share with each other, and, you know, that's what God intends for us to do is share things with each other. And that's where the accountability that you guys talked about earlier comes in. I know Johnny probably has that. I do. And, we'll call my accountability guy will call me in a heartbeat, and if something's not going right. And, you know, those are important. Those type of things are important. I think that's, for me, that's probably the lesson learned from it is what God teaches you and the wisdom that you learn from it. You can't just keep it in. You need to share that stuff with other people and share your experiences with other people, because it does when you start sharing that stuff with other folks that are going through it, it makes a huge difference, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's important too, as you're kind of diving into the idea of accountability. The things that you're learning off the field are just as applicable on the field as they are off the field a lot of times too. And we see that a lot with different coaches and athletes as we're talking and build relationships. We realize that, at least for me, when I was in high school playing ball, I was figuring out, wow, like a lot of the things that I'm doing right now, working hard, pushing through my limit, being tested. Like, the game doesn't always go your way. There's things that are going to happen, mistakes that are going to be made. How do I respond in times where things don't go my way? And I think that's something that a lot of our students and athletes are working through right now, with so many distractions going on in our world with phones and different things that we have. We have the ability to numb the pain of what we're trying to deal with right now. So I think that's really good. To bounce back to Johnny here, you recently just stepped on staff here with our Central Arkansas East FCA team. Kind of explain that process of, you were coaching 6 state championships in 10 years, was it?
Yes.
6 state championships in 10 years. And now you have just really felt, and it's been confirmed in your heart, that you're supposed to step on staff with FCA. So kind of explain the process and why you joined FCA.
Well, when I coached for 31 years, and my last 10 years of that I was the head coach. That was my dream. You know, I'm a North Little Rock alum, and the coaches through the North Little Rock system were very impactful to me. I just looked up to them for everything. They're the ones that, the impact they had on me, I knew I wanted to be a coach at a very, very young age. And so I did that. I did 31 years. We were very successful. And I thought it was time to do something else. So I went into in the financial world, or in a retirement advising role with my best friend in high school. And I thought that's, what the Lord's leading me to do. Well, I was approached by Mark Miller and some other guys through FCA about hey, you're getting out of teaching and coaching. I mean, I think, FCA would be something, you could be impactful at. I go, well, I'm doing this. I'm going to put both feet into this, what I'm doing. But Mark never stayed, I don't want to say he never stayed off of it, but he was always there. He'd always check on me and do all that. And then whenever the career I was doing didn't work out, it's like, man, it was real visible to me that the Lord was closing doors and opening doors. And I was probably very hard headed about all it, but it was just really, really, really easy for me to see that. And because I know how impactful the coaches were to me, and I hope that I was impactful as much to the kids that I coached. And I know this is a way to impact. You asked a question earlier about how did a tough season do it, and as a first thing you think of, and I think of a tough season, is wins and losses.
Yeah.
And as an assistant coach for 20 something years, I sat on that bench going, if I'm the head coach, I'm doing this in this situation, I'm doing that. And then whenever I moved over, what we always say was about 14 inches is the width of a chair. When you move over 14 inches and then you're the guy, it wasn't the X's and O's. It was, how do you keep kids engaged? How do you keep them locked in? How do you keep them motivated? I mean, the X's and O's are a part of it, but it wasn't the most important thing about it. And so I could still see, so you think that, and then I could say the toughest season was that season he's talking about, because he's getting fired, and then they're going back, and now we're forfeiting every win, and I had a state championship in that time. Now, I still treat it just like it is. It was a state championship, so I argue with anybody all about that. That don't bother me at all. But lead young men, and when you go in and tell them, hey, they come in and turned in the trophy from the year before, and you're sitting in front of those kids, and it's right in the middle of your season, the next one. That was tough, and that was hard. And but then I was reminded by accountability partners I have, and my wife being a big part of that, is because I'd be home and I'd be talking about being mad about how we did this and we did that, turned this trophy in and forfeited this and all that. And real quickly, she would say, you got guys that are watching your every step, listening to everything you're saying and seeing how you're acting on things. And there's where I thought I could see, that Christ strengthened me. He empowered me, and he for sure gave me the knowledge of what to do and how to maneuver and act in a certain situation to lead guys. And so you think of, like I said, I used to think about everything was wins and losses until you really move over into the real deal. I'm not gonna lie, when Coach Bowden got the job at North Little Rock, huge on culture building. They'd have all the seniors on a retreat. They would go here and do that. And I'm back there. First, I hadn't been, I was assistant when he first got it. Then when I came to head coach, I'm like, man, that's elementary stuff. That's why I was an assistant, I'm thinking, that's all elementary school stuff and doing all that. That's just whatever. And then when you become the real deal, that's the most important part of it. And it just comes with maturity. And I think it's been the Lord showing me, the path that you should do things.
Yeah. And again, this is Zach Rose and Josh Adair. We're on a brand new show, Beyond the Huddle, and we have Coach Brad Boulding and Johnny Rice here with us to kind of bounce off of that. Wins and losses. We talk a lot about winning and losing. I know I'm just as competitive as anyone else, and I'm sure you coaches and Josh, you'd say the same thing. How do you reset? So you lose a game that you shouldn't have lost. How do you reset in your mind as a coach to be able to then lead your team, show up to a practice the next day, and kind of reset the mentality and go from that, learn a lesson, but then have motivation to go out and win the next one?
I'll jump in. It's easier for basketball because we get beat on Tuesday. We got another game on Friday, or sometimes quicker than that. So it's really like try to learn from where you know, the mistakes you made or maybe reasons why you lost, and then you're already preparing for the next guy. And football is a little different because now you got a whole week to pout about what happened when it did, or celebrate your win, because I mean there's still handling victories is almost as important as what you do on defeat. But I was blessed. I mean, we were very successful, but I learned way more about an individual player and my team when we lost, because we would get beat. Then I would go, first thing I do, I'd walk in that dressing room and I'm going to look at the room and say, what's the kids doing? Are they blaming themselves? Are they blaming me? Are they blaming the officials? Are they doing whatever? Are they looking for excuses? Or are they going, you know, hey, guys, we got to do this? You can tell their character comes out in defeat when you go through struggles. And it's just like in our everyday walk that you see who your friends are, and you see how tough you are whenever you're going through struggles, and it strengthens you, and it does all that. Now, I know I went on probably a whole different question than what you asked though, but I mean, I just think that's most important. That's the stuff I learned really quickly was when things were tough and we had a loss.
Go ahead. I don't know. I'm out.
That's good. That's good. In terms of, I kind of mentioned it earlier, engaging students with distractions today. You guys have been in the business of coaching for a long time. Me, I'm a little bit younger, 22 years old. I've grown up with technology and different things now that we have. I know there's some really cool technology that can help with the metrics and the stats and this and that. But maybe for a more old school styling of coaching, how does it look like today to coach with all of the distractions that we have of cell phones and students being disengaged? What does that look like for you on a daily basis to engage students, Coach Boldy?
I think for us, now for my coaches, we will utilize some technology. I use AI for parent emails and things like that. It helps. My punctuation's awful.
Absolutely.
I hope my college English teacher's not listening. Dr. Levy, she'd be really upset, but it's awful. But it helps. And we utilize it there. But I like for my coaches when we break down film, to break it down the old-fashioned way, because if you let a computer do it, then you're not learning the information. You're just getting the information. I want them to learn the information while they're breaking the film down. So we don't utilize it for that aspect of it. We'll utilize it like for tendencies against our offense, because it's them attacking us, if that makes any sense. So we just need to get that information fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. So that part of it, we're just old school, still pencil and paper, but a lot of the things that we do is still technology based, and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a second part to that?
Yeah.
Give me that second part.
How with students nowadays, because our school cultures have changed a little bit, it seems, with I know there's a whole debate on whether phones should be allowed in schools and different things like that. But even me as an athlete growing up in high school, graduated from high school in 2020, but this idea that now we can pick up our phone, did that just make me sound really young?
Yeah. You are.
Yeah. It's funny. The other day I was talking to some students at church in the youth group. They're about to be juniors in high school, and they said they were born in 2008 or 2009. I'm sitting there thinking, well, now I'm feeling old, and I'm only 22. Anyways, we have phones, and we have all this information at our disposal, and social media, and how does all of that play out with social media? You can take on social media, and all of a sudden your opinion's out there, and this image of you is out there. How do you feel like that's played a role in building your team culture? Like, do you feel like that's been a distraction at all with athletes?
We utilize it. They're going to use it anyway. So we utilize social media for marketing purposes for our program. I mean, that's the way we really kind of market things that are the good things that are going on with our program. I mean, that aspect of it is, for us, but I don't know, Johnny, when you were from basketball standpoint, I mean,
I mean, I would use the technology of watching film. Let's say for basketball, because you got way more games.
Yeah.
That kids can watch their game film on there, and we can send them just certain what other teams doing and what we did good and did bad. We can show player tendencies, some of the same. So, but we would use that a lot, and then probably more than watching it as a whole team, because we just got so many games and we were getting prepared for the next one. The social media aspect, I mean, I would use it a lot. I used it a lot for program promotion because parents were white. So what we did, it was from practice to be the weight room, what we're doing in the summertime, when we were doing culture building type stuff. I mean, I was throwing that out there because it was promoting the program, and it drew kids and parents to move into our school district and into our program. And but it's really there's a thin line on, like, if we had a game, not a lot of time would I put player stats out. I put that we won because first time I put so-and-so scored 20 points and had this, and then the parents want to know, well, why didn't you put my son had 18? Why didn't you put them out there? So I got to where I never did that.
Yeah.
And because it was just a real thin line that I didn't want to ever cross. Everything was always team oriented, but it's scary. That mean, like I said, I've been out for 3 years, and I know there's all that stuff's even bigger now than it was when I was.
And what they do, the other thing too, we monitor our players' stuff. So, like position coaches. So I'm not monitoring every single player, but if I get on and see our wide receivers has posted some stuff that doesn't need to be on there, then I'm going to ask the coach why he hadn't been monitoring that. So we monitor it from that aspect of it and go through a lot of different things with them, showing them videos of things that have happened. I've had a couple experiences where players have said some things where college coaches said, "No, we're not dealing with that."
Yeah.
So,
you had to educate it.
You got to educate
the player on that. And also that when you have your parent, you got to have a parent meeting every year. And I mean,
parents are sometimes the worst.
Yes.
I mean, like they can get on social media and hurt their child with just some of the things they said.
Exactly.
You know?
They don't realize that the coach is not just recruiting the kid, they're recruiting the parent.
Yep. That's
also.
Right.
And I've seen many times where the parent has hurt the kid's recruiting process because of stuff they're doing and saying.
Yeah.
So you were talking social media, and you and I both know we're a reels culture and we're a highlight culture, and it's all anybody wants to focus on is the highlights. I don't watch Sports Center anymore. Just show me the reels of the top 10 or whatever. I don't have time to watch the entire dialogue of everything. So how have you seen that impact the effort or the work that goes into athletes in your program, and how do you lead away from that?
You start.
No, go ahead.
I mean, there was times where I had parents that fully believed that you could get a scholarship from Twitter, which is now X or whatever, and that's it. They get a scholarship from that, and it was that was that deal as going from an assistant coach to a head coach was you're dealing with that kind of stuff and not the X's and O's.
Yeah.
And to keep it team first, team centered because the mom and dad wanted about their baby to be highlighted and doing all that. So, man, it was really, really, that was always a really hard thing that I didn't enjoy, but it was just difficult. And, but you had to remind yourself every day as a coach that it's team first and do that. So it wasn't easy.
No, it's not. Yeah. You think about that. We're in the only profession where they refer to you by your professional name, coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that to me just shows you how much respect people have for the profession still. Hopefully it stays that way. A lot of that is lost with our teachers now.
Sure.
So trying to help teachers learn that respect's a two-way deal has been tough for older teachers.
Yeah.
But it's still that way for coaches. We're and you know that's so to me when I think about it, it motivates me to try to stay on top of all those things with the players and just constantly be preaching to them about the good, the bad, and all the different things that they can experience from being on there and things that they can do, and then educate parents too. I try to have 2 parent meetings a year, and I go over all those specific things with them. I have other people there to speak. One of the things that we did is for FCA when my first year here was, this is kind of jumping around. I don't mean to be, but I think you'll appreciate this. But I made it mandatory for everybody to go to FCA. Well, that didn't work out very well for me. And so I had some players that said, parents called them and said, no, wait. I said, okay. It had to be the good Lord because I'm not smart enough to think about this. So the next day I woke up and I thought, I got a great idea. What we'll do is I'll have one coach that will stay and work out those guys that don't go to FCA. Yep. And then the rest of them go to FCA.
No,
y'all just finish the workout.
We do the same thing too. We tell coaches it's just an opportunity to improve.
And then all of a sudden we had 100% participation. Not one parent called. Yep. It was amazing. Yep. I didn't come up with that. I promise you I didn't.
Well, I mean, you say that, but that's what we offer coaches today too. Is like, hey, we'll provide character coaching for your team. You can't force everybody to come. It has to be their choice, but if you provide another opportunity for them to improve, physical workout early, if we're meeting before practice, then it's extra reps. You get to warm up or set out equipment, everything that you need that other coaches get to do, which builds character development. So it's another way to do character. Or if it's during the middle, if we come in and talk during the middle of practice, there's another opportunity to hang out with coaches and X's and O's, or we can feed into the spiritual aspect or whatever. There has to be another opportunity to improve. And most of the time, like to your credit, they choose the path of least resistance and the path that they go with the flow of their peers, or a lot of times it's a lot of sitting down and listening as opposed to actively working, and they're going to choose that option. So, I think whatever God downloaded to you in that moment, maybe you deserve all the credit for it. I don't know, but it's similar language and logic for a lot of people all around the country. We want to provide opportunities for athletes to improve. And we have the opportunity to come in, like you've had with Gary Tomlinson for years, to come in and to coach their character and lead them towards a relationship with Jesus. It's their choice. It's their choice whether they want to be there or not and how much they want to engage. But
I got to give credit to Robert Upshaw too, because he's been with me since I was first at North Little Rock. So, and those other guys have been a big part of it, but I have to give a lot of credit to Robert because he was with me all the 8 years at Parkview, along with the other guys from FCA, obviously. But Robert's been there through the thick and thin with me, and so I have a lot of respect for him. So
absolutely. He was my guy too, my guy.
Well, he was running it at first, when we first both got in. So
he started when I was at Ridge Road doing middle school. He started there, and when I came to head coach, he come to me one day and said, he lives up at Park Hill. He lives, or he did. And
I think he moved, but yeah, you're right. You're right by me.
The school, and he goes, Coach, I come and walk around the school, and I've been praying for you, and I've been praying for your young men and your team.
Yeah.
And I would love to sit down and and I said, how can you say that? Yeah. Like he's marching around like the walls of Jericho. Yeah. He's marching around praying. So I'm glad I didn't hear no horns going off.
No kidding.
Stuff starts crumbling. But that just made an impact to me. And he's really great, but he was really good with the kids. So I would just do that in there with Robert too.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Absolutely. And again, this is Zach Rose and Josh Adair with our new show, Beyond the Huddle. And we're here with Coach Johnny Rice and Coach Brad Bolding to kind of expand on that faith and character coaching aspect of FCA presence. What's that line like for you as a coach, or maybe another coach who's listening right now? How would you encourage them to, Johnny, to share their faith while also working within the guidelines of how to do that within a public school like North Little Rock High School?
the longer that I coached, and then like I said, when you become the assistant, you become the head coach from being assistant. I really realized, and I knew it before, but it really hit me between the eyes on sports in general or athletics. They teach more life lessons than any other subject. I've been blessed to go around. I've spoke at banquets and some other things at other schools, and even in North Florida School District at deals. And I would say I know math and science and English and all of that is important. But to me, athletics could be the most important because it teaches those life lessons on how to be a good teammate, a worker, and how to be on time and work hard and work ethic and all those things. But the most important deal on that was you build relationships in athletics and in sports. And, whenever you see somebody on their deathbed, you never hear they said, man, I wish I'd have won one more championships, or I wish I would have worked longer, or I wish I'd have done this. It's always, I want the people they love around them, and they're looking for God. It's those two things. It's those relationships, those impactful relationships. That's what they want there. And like I said, they never say, man, I wish I'd have worked another year.
That's right.
They never say that. They don't ever say that. They never said, I wish I'd have got to play a couple more rounds of golf. I love to play golf. But they don't say that on their deathbed. They're wanting those impactful relationships. Athletics form as relationships, and then the ultimate relationship is your relationship with Jesus Christ. And whenever you can install that relationship through sports with FCA, that's what's driving me right now is to be able to do that. And it's like I'm an older guy now, I'm 56 years old, and it takes a little while for me to figure things out. But I figured that out, and that's how, to me, in sports are so important. Athletics is so important. And it's because those relationships that you build in there, that you're taught, and relationships are a two-way street.
Yep.
And, my wife was in a terrible accident. It's been 21 years ago, or it's April 15th, 2003, so 22 years ago. And when she was at the emergency room at UAMS, it was packed out. I mean, there were so many people there. So many people there that a girl we go to church with was there, and somebody asked her, hey, was there a bus wreck or some type of big deal? Why are there so many people here? And she goes, no, it says everybody's here for one person. And she told me that, and then that that gave me the impact. That impacted me on the type of friend and love that my wife gave to other people. And that taught me that how much of a two-way street relationships are. Just like, so our relationship with Christ, it's a two-way street. And that's another aspect that athletics and sports teach us. And that relationship and everything, when I was in the business world these last couple of years, and you're in sales, all they say is about relationship. Well, when I roll over here into FCA, I'm doing my training with FCA. What are we talking about? Relationship. When I was a school teacher, they would say to me, you got to be able to relate to your kids. And then one thing that I based my whole 30-year coaching career on was that when the kids knew that I loved them and I wanted the best for them, they would jump through hoops for me, run through brick walls, whatever I want to say. When they knew that, they would do those things, and that's that relationship. Yeah. Everything is relationship based, and what better way to lead someone to have a relationship with Christ? Because when it comes down to the end, that's what they're going to be. So to be able to live with that for a long time and not a short time is so much more blessed way to live.
Yeah, that's really good. To kind of finish us off here, if either of you, we'll kind of leave it up here to Coach Bolding. What has been, if you could pick one, this is more of a fun question, what has been your favorite moment of your coaching career? what has been like the pinnacle? Like you would relive that day over and over again.
I'd love to be able to pick two, but I'll just stick with one. Well, I'll tell you two.
You can
but
pick two. It's okay.
When we beat Bryant a couple years ago, they were on the 5-year winning streak or 50 game or whatever, 75 game winning streak. And we, little 5A Parkview out of Little Rock School District, went over to Bryant and beat them at their house. That was a pretty big moment.
Yeah.
Pretty big moment. And then in that same year, we went 14-0 and won the state championship. So I would think that was a special moment, but those are big moments. But to me, the biggest moment we ever had, and again, this is a bragging on God moment, is when we baptized those kids in the weight room that time. I got written up for this, but I thought I told the guy, I said, this is the best write-up I ever had. But we had two. Thompson, I think, was involved. My youth pastor from Central Baptist Church in North Little Rock was there, and our cooling tubs that we use in the summers, we had them full, and it was 4:30. School wasn't in session, no school, and we baptized like 35 kids.
Wow.
And that was and those are all kids that had been led to the Lord that year in FCA, and that made it into the Southern Baptist Convention deal. And when it made it there, they called me in and said, we're writing you up. We're fixing to get raked over the coals over this. They brought me in and they said, you'll love this. He said, human resource guy, he said, you'll be riding at the front of the Christmas parade. Everybody else will be thrown under the bus by the government for you doing this. No, I'm like, dang, is it that serious? But anyway, nothing ever happened.
So it took a long time for you to get written up. You weren't written up immediately.
About 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
But he had thought all this stuff, and it was actually kind of humorous, I thought, with some of the things that he said, but it was a special moment for me.
Yeah.
It was a special moment for my players. I know all of them won't forget that. The coaches, anyone that was involved with that, man, you just know when the Holy Spirit is there, when you're in church, and it was just amazing, man. There wasn't a dry eye in the building. So that was probably the most special time. I gave 3, but that last one was the number one.
That's incredible. You said it earlier. Billy Graham quote is, a coach will impact more people in 1 year than most people will in an entire lifetime. So I'm just super thankful for you two, for your platform that you lead from the way that Jesus Christ has impacted your life. And it's not just something that impacted and you put it in a box and you hide it away, but it's on the forefront, and that's the way you lead. It's the way you interact with other coaches. It's the way you interact with your players. It's the grace and forgiveness, and sometimes consequence that he holds us to through what we learn in our faith walk that we get to live out and pass on to the next generation. So I'm just super grateful for you. Super grateful for your time here, sharing with us, coming on and opening your heart, and not holding back, just helping us to go beyond the huddle and to get to know you one-on-one on a personal level. And I think all in all, this is a great first podcast. I don't know how we're going to hold up to it after this. We've come out of the gate strong, and we're really excited about the next coming shows that we have coming up, opportunity to share more stories of coaches and athletes. And with that, I think it's just wise. I'm not asking permission. We're just going to do it. Every time that my alarm throughout the past 2 years has gone off at 10:02, it's not 10:02 now, but we pray for Luke chapter 10, verse 2, pray for the Lord of the harvest, for the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And that's how Johnny got here. I didn't go looking for Johnny to come on FCA staff. Mark did that before, but we transitioned some schools and location, and Johnny came into the fold. And I didn't know I was praying for Johnny, but I was praying for Johnny at the time. But I think it's just wise for all of us as we end this podcast show, just in a time of prayer. And I just want to pray for you too. And then we'll call it good after that. I'll let Zach close it out for finality after that. So let's pray. Jesus, I just thank you for, I thank you that you don't give up on us. I thank you that you are there with us in the thick of the battle when the world seems lost and dark, that you hear our cries, that you hear our prayers, that you want to, as Johnny said, have a relationship with us. It's a two-way street. It's just not you telling us what to do, but you want to hear our hearts so that we can talk to you and grow in relationship with you. You are a loving Father. You're a loving God. I thank you for Johnny, and I thank you for Brad. I thank you for their families, their spouses, their families. God, I just pray that you provide yourself to be real to them, even though they know football, even though they know basketball, and they know relationships and everything along the way, but just to walk with you step by step. God, I pray for all coaches within hearing my voice, that you provide an opportunity for them, if they don't know, that they come to realization that Jesus is the only way, that Jesus provides all the peace that they could ever have, need, or want, that they can provide to other people, that they can provide to their teams, that they live, if they are a believer of Jesus, that you give them bold faith and courage to lead from that place, not to hide it in the back, but to be on the forefront of everything that they do as an opportunity to minister and witness, to see this world change, to see the culture of high school, middle school, college, professional sports changed through the impact and through the influence of Jesus Christ. God, we love you and we thank you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you again for joining us on Beyond the Huddle. Again, we are so excited to just be able to share the stories of different coaches in our area. Thank you, Coach Johnny Rice and Brad Bolding, for being here with us today. For now, Zach Rose and Josh Adair, we're signing off. This is Beyond the Huddle, the Central Arkansas FCA podcast, where faith meets competition. Thanks for joining us this week.